Okay, this is my current setup. I'm getting a lot of update notifications. I've been building a pretty big castle in the background. As you can see, this is a pretty advanced world. I've got quite a hefty auto crafting system, pretty extensive AE system. I've also got Thaumcraft system with Thaumic Energistics and advanced filtering. I don't really use this very much. I've found Thaumcraft doesn't really offer much in terms of advanced stuff, but I've been slowly building on this giant castle, getting the big things fleshed out and then starting in on the detail work. So the interiors I've got going. It's like a great hall. With the exterior built. Giant towers. I don't have any floors in them yet, but that comes later. Power my base. I started with oil and generators from thermal expansion and Buildcraft. Worked my way up to big reactors. I've got a fairly large reactor system. I've got one reactor feeding 3 turbines. When the system is going, each turbine with the Ludicrit blocks produces the entirety of the system produces well over 100,000 RF per tick. Works pretty well from just a simple reactor, 7x7x5 reactor with a donut-shaped fuel rod system. With a very large 10 billion RF capacitor bank. I have just simple RF system with wireless activation, so when it gets down to 0%, then these kick on. But my material processing and auto crafting system are pretty extensive. I have systems that generate compressed, double compressed, and then triple compressed cobblestone. That gives me these barrels, bedrockium drums. So fuel bedrockium drum, 25,000 buckets of fuel I have oil bedrockium drums that I fill up when I go out into the world. I don't really use a lot of oil, as now my system is transferred over to nuclear power. My auto crafting system is extensive. I like to craft things stacks at a time, and oh, I'm giving myself all this stuff. Instead of, I'm used to Factorio. That's dark helmet, dark leggings. Protection. Pretty much using this system to pick and choose the enchantments that I need. Silk Touch. I have a system of ore doubling and ore tripling that processes all my ores, which gives me, iron I'm not doing too shabby at. 9,000 iron with 221,000 pulverized iron. So the iron ore comes in, it is processed in a system. I don't think I have it set up here anymore, but my mob farms, I've got Cursed Earth with my mob farms, and here's where I process my ores. I use autonomous activators that place the ore, and then autonomous activators with fortune enchantment pickaxes to process the ores into chunks with fortune ores. Those chunks then are into the system, automatically processed with my SAG mills, and then SAG mills dump the pulverized ore or powdered ore, which I then smelt in mass in order to make my finished ores. This is a pretty advanced system. I also have my food. I like my delighted meals, great saturation and replenishment. I have those auto crafted, and I'm producing the ingredients with a system of autonomous activators using bone meal to create all the ingredients, and autocrafts it that way. The system, my initial base was over here. I have it since moved the system. I still have some things to move. Here's an example of my highly efficient mob farm that processes stuff like ender pearls. I have a floor of autonomous activators with the dark or the ender swords that increase drops with fortune, as well as the fact that the ender itself increases drops of ender pearls. So ender pearl wise, I'm doing pretty good. 66,000 ender pearls. You know, leave this on for a couple hours and I've got several thousand ender pearls. I also have a system for automatically creating withers, and the floor itself destroys the withers pretty fast and gives me nether stars. I'm not sure how many I have. Yeah, I don't know. I have 33 nether stars. I'm using the Sphax texture pack. I like the clean, smooth lines, but so I've created a lot of pretty advanced structures in this game. Minecraft lends itself to castles very well, as most people know, and I thoroughly enjoy building them, so it works out. I'm using magnum torches to prevent mobs from spawning en masse, and generally like building big projects. So systems for my auto crafting system, every interface has 5 assemblers on it. And so that means anything that I craft, it crafts at 5 at a time. All my CPUs have coprocessors, which allow it to branch off and use other machines at the same time, so it can essentially, in one job, craft up to 5 things at a time if needed. And each CPU is actually quite large. My largest I have, as you can see here, a bank of 64K, 8 64K CPUs, which allow me to craft very, very large jobs at a time. Some of the other things I have is a system for crafting or spawning wisps. I have powered spawners that craft wisps and eldritch guardians that give me a lot of Thaumcraft stuff. And my Thaumcraft room, as you can see, I'm using Thaumic Energistics to process. I've got a lot of Essentia, a lot of different types of Essentia. Although, as I said before, I'm not really using Thaumcraft for anything. But the most that I use is Herba for lamps of growth, but again, I don't really use a lot. I'm mainly focused on a hybrid of building big projects, but keeping with a survival sort of resource system, to where I really need a lot of materials, but I don't want to go the creative route and have an infinite number of materials. This system up here is my system for Applied Energistics computer components. So all of the different processors has their own system. And generally I kind of have fun figuring out ways of automating in grand scales, a lot of different things. So my interface terminal, you can see, I have 8 alloy smelters, 4 dedicated to each type. Autonomous activators, you can see for the different foods. These are my patterns for chests. Diamond chests, these are for the sag mills. This one's for the silicone. Fluid transposers for water, milk, cryotheum, and resident ender, and destabilized redstone. Induction smelters that I need to use for the Enderium, for those, so it processes a lot at a time. And then my huge bank of 32 interfaces that are connected to molecular assemblers. So I have a lot of stuff that's auto-craftable. I usually do very large jobs, and I want to auto-craft every single aspect. Pulverizers, same thing. And then the redstone furnaces to craft all of my ingots. And a little slice and splice for the zombie head controller. For very few things that take that. So for a crafting job, if I want, I don't typically craft one thing at a time. I'll craft stacks at a time or thousands at a time. So if I want, let's say I'm running low on shiny ingots or say yellorium, Invar, and so Tinker's alloy, I will either craft a stack or multiple stacks at a time, and the system will automatically do that because it has so many, so every single one gets placed, and I don't have to wait, I don't have to do anything, I just start crafting and it works out. And I have special settings for my big builds. I modded the mods, increased the range of wireless, so when I'm out building I can just link up to my wireless and build, grab multiple stacks, craft multiple things. When I craft stairs, I'll craft 1,000 stairs. If I'm crafting, if I'm putting iron bars, I'll craft 1,000 iron bars or multiple stacks of iron bars, and the whole thing just crafts. I can have 4 crafting jobs going at a time, and I don't need to worry. I have the resource generation modded using the existing mods that are out there. So it generates a little bit more resources than maybe a vanilla version because I use so much. So for wood, I have a tree farm. For obsidian, I have igneous extruders, and I have not just one igneous extruder, I have 10 igneous extruders that are all upgraded and balanced that produce a gross amount of obsidian. So I have 129,000 obsidian ready to go. Here's my bank of igneous extruders, all detailed on a switch. I have a massive amount of lava. Each one of these, 65,000 buckets of lava, and the igneous extruders I have augmented to be balanced, so when I place a lava barrel in there and I turn them on, they will produce just hundreds and hundreds of blocks of obsidian. the lava I get from the nether, of course, using the endothermic pump, which is incredibly fast. So the hardest part is finding very large areas of lava to pump, because I like just setting and forgetting. I use ender storage throughout my mod, or my bases, in order to move stuff around. I use tesseracts exclusively for power, as they are just a phenomenal thing to use. Ender storage for items, so I have items that I use basically orange to as my de facto standard for sending items to my base, and I have other colors dedicated to other uses. For tanks, I try to color the tanks to what they are used for. So orange is for lava, black is for oil, and yellow I use for fuel, but in this case fuel is going right into a barrel, which is going right into the augmented compression dynamos. So these only switch on when this gets low enough to where I might have run out of yellorium for my reactors, or some other reason where I need a kind of a burst of energy. But before I get the big reactors going, I'm pretty much reliant completely on compression dynamos. I can get this system going and get it expanded within a couple hours, and you know, I don't really get an AE system going until I'm pretty far into it. I've got extra cells on here, so I've got very large drives for specific uses. I don't use very large drives for generics because of the 63, you know, you use a very large drive. If you have one thing on the drive, it can contain an incredible amount of that one thing. But as you ramp up the number of things on a drive, then it can use a lot. So typically I don't use very large drives for single things, but so like, you know, this has 138,000 wood. It's 129,000 obsidian. This is pulverized storage, so all my pulverized ores, so 9 different ores are in there, and as you can see, it's almost 1.5 million different materials. My cyanite reprocessors for cyanite to plutonium, and these are all my fluid transposers and magma crucibles. All items are top tier, resonant, with fully augmented processing. So this is a very advanced system that I will in future videos show the process as well as other builds. This is just a generic structure that I built in order to house everything. I do have very fancy buildings that I've produced to house everything. In this specific world, I'm focused on sort of different architecture styles. So I'll have a castle over here on this hilltop, and then on another hilltop I'll have a different style, maybe sandstone mixed with quartz or some other material. So it's sort of my builds are sort of a hybrid of survival and creative, where I'll have a lot of resources to build with, but I'll actually have to produce the ores myself and create a system of production, because I enjoy that a lot. But I do enjoy large builds like this, figuring out how to make everything look right, how to make everything kind of combine into a nice design. So I need more torches. There's a torch. I also have those craftable, so I don't have to constantly worry about running out of torches. So this is far from finished. This is just a basic block structure. The outside, as you can see, I try to do a lot of detail work with the roof, with some bridge work, but I do have a lot more fancy buildings that I typically blueprint. I can show you some of those in future videos, where I use quartz and cobblestone and stone and a lot of different things. Animal farm with the rancher, which automatically milks the cows, gets me the wool, and obviously a sound muffler so I'm not hearing them all the time. And cotton, which is what I originally used for string and to get wool. And then sugar cane, I don't have auto crafted just because I don't use a whole lot of it. This is your basic three turbine setup. Produces hundreds of thousands of RF per tick when it's going. I have a water system, so 64 world interaction upgrades in each of these, pushing into there, which is plenty for 3 turbines. And all these 3 turbines, I have balanced all of these injection rods to be perfect, produces the perfect amount of steam to power all 3 turbines maximum. It's just in the sweet spot of RPM and produces just a massive amount of RF that goes directly into the vibrant capacitor bank for 10 billion RF. So that is an advanced system. I also have designs for automated potion making. I have to get to produce potions and other items for that. Nether wart is pretty easy to set up. You have a farmer, you have a planter, and a harvester. Produces an absolute ton of nether wart. I don't have it going into a ender chest just because I want to keep that system working to where I can turn it off if I really need to. But this was an introduction to some advanced working. I like to keep my builds sort of out in the open. I sort of like the look that where you can see where everything's going, you can debug an item. I do have areas that I do have designs of buildings where everything is hidden, everything is sort of out of the way. But in this specific build, I sort of put everything out in the open so you can see all the interesting little tricks, ways of moving items around. I make extensive use of the Ender IO mod and extensive use of applied energistics to move everything around. So that is an introduction to some advanced drafting. If there's interest, I can start a world, start from scratch, and show how quickly you can progress up the chain, get things going, and work on setting up a really nice base and building and all that good stuff. I do alter the generation of some ores, but that's just in order to take the tedium out of finding things. You know, I still have to go and dig them out and mine them, but it just takes some of the tedium out. So like nether quartz, I increased the spawning rate of nether quartz just because in some of my builds, I use an absolute ton of it, hundreds of thousands of nether quartz, and it would be an immense amount of time to mine it all. So there are things that I do that some people might consider cheating, but my focus in this game is gathering the resources, building something spectacular, and building and growing and learning how to expand your ability to build just epic structures. So that hillside will get a different style castle on it than that one. So that one's a more traditional stone brick wood roof. One over here might be sandstone with quartz or obsidian, using contrasting colors and different styles. Makes for eye-pleasing builds. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll explain how to do things in future videos.